Welcome back to another session of metrology and measurements ME3592. We are going to continue the same unit 3 tolerance analysis. My name is P.NAVIN, JASS, Assistant Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Rohini College of Engineering and Technology. So today's topic is limit gauges. We are going to discuss about the limit gauges. It is one of the important instrument and it is very easy for the usage of beginners. So limit gauge is not a measuring gauge, it is an inspecting gauge. This limit gauge is only for checking or inspecting the elements. These instruments are also called as go gauges and no go gauges. Go gauge and no go gauge. Normally the gauges are scale in less in inspection. Tools used to check the dimensions of the part, and they do not determine the actual size or dimensions of the part, used to check the inspected part within the specified limit. So purpose of limit gauges, it is manufactured as per the specified tolerance limits such as upper limit and lower limit, and dimensions of each component should be within the upper and lower limits, and if the dimensions are outside these limits, the components will be rejected. If any measuring instrument used to measure these dimensions, the process consumes more time. So if the amount of error in dimension is not important, it is enough to check whether the size of the component is within the prescribed limits or not. So there are different types of gauges are there, or classification of limit gauges is also there. So based on the work, the limit gauges will be vary according to the shape or purpose for which is used. First one is plug gauge, then ring gauge, snap gauge, taper gauge, thread gauge, form gauge, thickness gauge or peeler gauge, indicating gauge, and air operated range. So these are the headings for the current academic year. And now we are going to show or visit about the plug gauge in the third unit. So plug gauges are normally used for checking holes of many different shapes and sizes, and these plug gauges for straight cylindrical holes, tapered threaded square and splined holes. The ends are hardened and accurately finished by grinding. So one end is go end and other end is no go end. Usually go end will be equal to the lower limit size of the hole, and no go gauge will be equal to the upper limit size of the hole if the size of the hole is within the limit, and now hole is under size, and also if no go gauge and goes, the hole is oversized. However, hence the important components are rejected in both the cases. So the figure shows the double-ended type plug gauge and progressive type plug gauge. In the double end, one go end is on the one side and no go end is on the opposite side. But in plug gauge, progressive type, go gauge and no go gauge is on the single area, whether he or she is not so progressive. In progressive type, the no go gauge and go gauge is on the same side, and in double-ended type, the go gauge and no go gauge will not be in the same side. It is used for inspecting element. So here in this this plug gauge is used to check different holes of many shapes and sizes, There are plug gauges or for cylindrically holes and tapered threaded square spline holes. The ends are hardened and accurately finished by grinding. And next one is ring gauges. Next one is ring gauges. So the ring gauge, when we are talking about the ring gauge, these ring gauges are mainly used for checking the external diameter of the shafts. The whole of the ring is accurately finished, and it is used to check the external dia of the shafts and accurately finished by grinding. There are two ring gauges such as go gauge and no go gauge. The ring is knurled to give more grips while handling the gauges. There are two ring gauges such as go gauge and no go gauge. There are two rings such as go ring and no go ring made separately to check the shaft diameter. The whole of go ring is made up of the upper limit size of the shaft and no go ring gauge for the lower limit. While checking the shaft and go ring gauge will pass through the shaft and no go gauge will not pass. To identify no go ring gauges easily, a red mark or a small groove is cut on the periphery. So these ring gauges are used to check the internal dia of shafts. It is accurately finished by grinding. There are two ring gauges such as go ring gauge and no go ring gauge. So these are the taper plug gauges. So there are four different types of taper plug gauges: taper plug gauge plain type, tangent type, plain type, and ring gauges. So here, when we are talking about the taper plug gauge, these plug gauges are used to check the tapered holes. It is used to check lines. One is a go line and another one is a no go line. When checking a taper hole, the taper plug gauges is inserted in the hole and slight difference or slight pressure is exerted against it. So if no go line remains outside the hole and go line remains inside the hole, it indicates that the taper angle is correct. The same procedure is followed ring gauge and tapered hole or the tapered spindle enters the range. So there are four different types of plug gauges. One is taper plug gauge, one is taper plug gauge plain type, another one is taper plug gauge tangent type. Taper ring gauge plain type and taper ring gauge tangent type. So these are the different types of taper plug gauges. And the next one is this taper plug gauges are used to check the taper holes. It is used to check lines. One line is go line and another one is no go line. Go line goes inside the tapered one and the no go line should remains outside. And the next one is snap gauges. These snap gauges are used to check the external dimensions. The shafts are mainly checked by snap gauges. These snap gauges and different types of snap gauges are given below. One is double under snap gauge, another one is progressive snap gauge, and another one is taper plug snap gauge, and another one is taper ring gauge snap gauge and taper ring gauge tangent type. And these snap gauges are used to check the external dimensions, and shafts are mainly checked by snap gauges, and they are also used for gap gauges. And these are the snap gauges, different types of snap gauges. And next one is thread gauges. These thread gauges are used to check the pitch diameter of the thread. For checking internal threads, the plug thread gauges are used. Similarly, ring thread gauges are used to checking external threads. So one is standard screw gauge and one is flappered standard screw gauge, plug thread gauges, and ring thread gauges. These are the thread gauges that we have studied today. And these gauges are used to check the pitch diameter of the thread. And for checking internal threads, standard and plug thread gauges used as external. Threads or ring thread gauges are used. And next one is form gauge. This form gauge is used to check the contour of a profile workpiece to a certain shape or form specifications. A profile gauges may contain outlines which indicates the limits of a profile. So this is screw pitch gauge, and this when we saw this screw pitch gauge, this screw gauge is used to check pitch of the thread and the number of blades with different pitches pivoted in a holder. The pitch value or number is stamped on each blade. So this is the radius and fillet gauge. This radius can be measured by using these gauges. The radius may be outer or inner radius. According to the another type of radius to be measured, the end of the blade is made either concave or convex. So next one is feeler gauge. Feeler gauges are used to checking the clearance between mating surfaces. They are made from 1.0 mm to and checking the clearance between the mating surfaces. They are made from 0.03 mm to 1 mm thickness of 100 mm length. The blades are pivoted in a holder as shown in figure. To find the size of the clearance, 1 or 2 blades are inserted and tried for a fit between contacting surfaces. Until the blades the suitable thickness are found, they are mainly used for adjusting the valve and spark plug clearance in the automobile area. So for feeler gauges, it's used to check the clearance between mating surfaces. The blades are provided in a pivoted holder, and the clearances 1 or 2 blades are initially inserted and tried for a fit between contacting surfaces until is mainly used for adjusting the valve and spark plug clearance in the automobiles. And the plate gauge and wire gauge. So the thickness of the sheet metal is checked by means of the plate gauges and wire diameters by the means of wire gauges. The plate is made of in the range of 0.25 mm and 5 mm, and the wire gauge made in the range of 0.1 mm to 10 mm. And the next one is inter-ring gauge. This gauge is mainly used for designing measures for measuring errors in a geometrical form and size of testing for the surfaces for the true positions of one surface with respect to another surface. And next, plate gauge and wire gauge. Thickness of the sheet metal is checked by means of a plate gauges and wire diameters by means of wire gauges. So by this this topic is over. We are going to see the next topic in the next class. Thank you.